Hey everybody, I'm Agent Funk, and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm joined by a super awesome guest. He's an Emmy-nominated director, producer, writer, and storyboard artist for numerous animated shows like Captain Planet, Double Dragons, Exo Squad, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Incredible Hulk, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and of course, X-Men, the animated series. Mr. Larry Houston, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for inviting me to the show. I appreciate it.
Very excited to have you here. I'm a huge fan of your work and your career. It's a dream come true to be able to speak with you. I wanted to have you on the show for the longest time, so thanks again for being here. Obviously, I'm a fan of X-Men, you can tell.
I like the wallpaper behind you.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I don't even think this is everybody. For those watching and who aren't familiar with your work, can you just tell us a little bit about how you ended up working on X-Men and what it is that you did on the show?
I started working at Marvel Productions in about 1980. I didn't know it at the time, but I was the first Black storyboard artist in Hollywood hired for that position. Yeah. Myself, there were two other fanboys like me, Will Miniel and Rick Holberg. And we were storyboard artists at the time, but we were always trying to promote the other Marvel characters in the shows. Our boss was Stan Lee and Margaret Lesh, and we have been trying to push the X-Men for 5 to 6 years. They found the financing for it, and the three of us co-directed, co-wrote the pilot of Pride of the X-Men. Fast forward about, I don't know, about maybe 6 years, and my former boss at Marvel became the CEO of Fox Kids for Saturday morning. And so once she got that position, she had the power to greenlight a show. So she called me up and my friends and said, "Hey, we're doing the X-Men. Come on down. Let's get orientated and get the ball rolling." And she's, I said, "Yep, I'm there." So that's how we actually got the X-Men started, was because of her, because we couldn't get any of the other networks to even, see the potential.
Mm-hmm. And what did you do? What was your primary responsibility or day-to-day job on the show?
I was the director of the show, and the responsibility is like everything visual you see there, I was in charge of making sure it was correct. I had authority and approval of storyboards, backgrounds, model design, model character designs, all the stuff that's required to make a show, including storyboards. You break it up into thirds, hand it off to people to work on, and then it comes back to you. Once they have done what they do, I would go there and approve everything they've done. And then after that, I go to what they call a final mix, where you take all the retakes, all the sound effects, the sound, and you blend it into like one composite track. And once that's done, once it has met my approval, then that gets sent to, then you get color correction and send it off to the client. I had to do that for every show. As I'm shipping shows off to go to Korea, shows are coming back in. I'm shipping shows, so I got to keep it all in my head. So my brain's going crazy, like making sure the show going out looks good, making sure shows comes in, has the retakes, and we're trying to cut it together and do all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty elaborate kind of job.
So my next question is, what did you do to stay sane? And what did you do to not go crazy from this process?
The one thing luckily I had was that I got promoted to being a director on the G.I. Joe syndicated series. So I started cutting my teeth on that show and learning all the speed bumps and the problems early on in about 86. And so by the time 1992 came around, I had produced a couple other shows. I did Karate Kid and Kid and playing some other ones. Mm-hmm. And so by the time the X-Men got greenlit, I knew the process. So I was already a veteran at that point. So I knew how to avoid all the what I call them speed bumps, where you make a mistake or someone makes a mistake. They do a board, the board's horrible, I got to redraw it, all that kind of stuff. I had enough knowledge how to get production, how to make it smooth to get through the system. I didn't have the luxury of time to maybe take a week and think about, how can I do this better? It's
Yeah.
no like you go with the gut instincts as a director and going, okay, let's change it to this, and redraw it and then hand it off to be cleaned up and just go. It was like boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
get it done. We were in production, and Marvel wanted us to. They didn't want us to use Jim Lee models as the basis for our characters. They said, you can't use Jim Lee. I was like, what are you talking about? We're already in production. We can't really retool this right now. It's going to cost a lot of money. The production of an animated show from script to delivery is 9 months. And so you have a window. And if you start eating into the window by second guessing or changing things, you're never going to make your air dates. And if you're serious about changing stuff, you got to change the air dates or give us a lot more money in production
to speed
to
up
get
the
it
process.
done.
Yeah,
because it doesn't happen by magic.
That's right.
Someone's got to draw it. And it was only because we knew we had the ratings, but we weren't sure because all of the feedback was being sent to the fan mail went to Fox Kids. That's right. And Julia Lewall was the one who discovered it because she went there for some reason, and she was talking with I think Charlotte Fullerton about, does anybody like? I mean, she went there for one reason, but as a casual thing, she said, "Does anybody like the X-Men?" She said, "Come with me." And Julia said she took her to a hallway, and she said, like if you get too much mail, you don't pick it up. You have these bins, these mail bins. Well, there was a whole mail bin full of mail, postcards, letters, stacked from the floor to the ceiling, and then as far back as you could see on both sides of the hallway. And that's when she realized, oh my God, these are all kids writing letters, writing postcards to Fox Kids saying how much they like the show. But what we never found out, till Julia went there on like the 12th episode. And I was working on the 13th episode that was going in production. No, had no idea.
That's so crazy. So if she hadn't seen that, you wouldn't have known just how popular. I mean, ratings wise, you knew people were watching it, but you didn't know that there was like a fandom
right
for the show. Like there was no Twitter, there's no Instagram, so you weren't getting a sense of
no internet. Sorry. I think the thing is about back then when we were doing the first season of X-Men, beside Margaret Lesh and maybe one other executive, nobody believed in the show. Everybody thought it was going to be one and done. It's going to be a show and it won't get picked up. Nobody's going to watch it. And so there wasn't a lot of cooperation to work with us. Marvel back east had never had a faithful adaptation for any of their characters. And the people at the network said we were doing it all wrong. We don't kill off characters. You don't have continued stories. You don't you don't write stories that are like up here. You're supposed to write stories down here, and it's like that's not what we wanted to do. We wanted to write elevated stories of relationships and commentary on the world, around us.
Yeah.
And so, to them at the time in 1994, a successful show was either Scooby-Doo or Super Friends. And we were violating all those rules. And so they didn't believe in us. So yeah, I can see why they didn't send us any information about how popular it was, because they figured we were gonna be, crash and burn.
Right.
And so for me, that was my second bite at the apple, because the first one was Pride of the X-Men.
Yeah.
I knew I had one more shot to make the show good. So I just kind of said, okay, I'm going to go out and blaze a glory because my name's on this show.
Yep.
I got to do the best show I can. And so I just went for it. I mean,
yeah.
I did things without permission because I said, well, what are they going to do? Fire me? I got to do a good show. I got to do stuff that I think works for the fans, for me.
If they already think the show's going to be a failure, then you have nothing to lose.
Yes.
Mojo Vision is the one that really stood out to me. It's like
That
one of
was
my,
such a crazy show.
well, because it was kind of like 5 shows in one episode.
Yeah, it was bizarre.
Can you talk a little bit about that episode?
What I remember about that episode, one thing I remember about that episode which stood out was that the voice actor they got to do Mojo up in Canada, because I went up there for some of the recordings, but once production hit, I couldn't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they were up there recording him, they let him riff like they would Robin Williams, and he would just start riffing and ad-libbing and making stuff up. And say, I had a script in front of me, right? He's supposed to say this, this, and this. And then I get back a recording. He's saying this, and he's all over the place in terms of like inflections that he's doing, you know. And I was like, holy crap. I got, you know, I look at the board and looking at it going,
how am I going to animate this?
Yes. And so suddenly I had to reboard a lot of his scenes to match the inflections that the voice actor gave it. And it was a lot more work than I wanted, you know, than I expected, because it was like, wow, this he's good, but man, it was a lot of work I didn't expect.
It's like nonstop dialogue, right?
Yes, yeah. It was a real motor mouth, but they let him have fun. And then it comes out in the character when you hear him acting out the scenes. It's just, for me, it was unexpected. And I called up, I think after that, I said, it's okay if he's going to rip. Just let me know.
Oh, yeah.
I can expect it, you know, just don't surprise. And I'm going, oh crap. It's like, I got to get this out in a week.
Right. And that's why the character of Mojo never showed up on the show again. I want to share a phrase that I made up, and it's called the Morph effect. And what the Morph effect is when a character or story is changed or altered due to the external influence of fandom.
That's true.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, but Morph wasn't planned to come back after the first episode. Is that right?
Right. I mean, we kind of like, we did a song and dance saying, oh, don't worry, we're going to kill him off. We'll bring him back in the 13th episode. But in our hearts, we knew, no, he was gone. And we wanted to, basically by having him pass away under the hand by the Sentinels, we wanted to establish there's a risk, a death, you know, lethal risk in the world that we're creating. Mm-hmm. And the death of Morph really, you know, solidified that for the fans, especially back, you're talking about 1994, that had never been, for American markets, it had never been done. I mean, they did it over anime,
yeah,
but not the American markets. And so that was like a shock to the audience to see a character that they like, you know, get killed. And we couldn't say kill, we could say everything but, you know, so we kind of danced mm-hmm. around it mm-hmm. Saturday morning, because that was what they told us we had to do. But Morph was not supposed to come back, no.
Has there been another character or story or design that the fans influenced on the show besides Morph coming back? Or was that like the big one?
That would probably be, that's the big one. The one that the fans brought back, because when we were working on the show, we had no guarantee. Like we did 13 episodes, and when we were done, the story editors, myself, we had our resumes. We were looking for work. We had to pay our rent and stuff, you know, that kind of stuff. Then the last minute they said, don't go anywhere. We got a season 2. Well, they said, you got a season 2. We did a survey of kids watching the show, and guess which character they liked the most? Not Wolverine. I guess he was a close second, but it was Morph. Morph was the character, and said, you need to figure out a way to bring him back for season 2. And it felt, we were great, we're going to get a season 2, but it was like, bringing him back would be like a cheat. We felt like, oh my God, we're bringing him back, and we did not intend, we wanted to not think, we didn't want to come across like we were, you know, playing it off like, he's not dead, we brought him back, you know. We were dead serious, he was dead, and he was not supposed to come back. And so we figured out a way, the writers figured out a way to bring him back with PTSD. Once we figured we're going to work with Sinister And Sinister does a lot of stuff, biological stuff and DNA stuff. So we figured, okay, he's a perfect villain to do that. And we literally, I think it's episode 13, I had storyboarded myself, the end of Scott and Jean on a blanket, talking about getting married, their kids. You see them on a hilltop, sunset, fade out. That was the end.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they said we had a season 2, they said we have to bring back Morph and we got to change that ending because I ended the series on a happy note. So then in post we had to reconfigure the scenes, and then we created like this computer screen in post with blinking lights and stuff. And then we grabbed the technician. We wrote something and said, here, say this. So he wrote, Sinister knows what the future holds. We had his line tie into what she said. And that's what you guys saw.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the voice actor. That was just some guy in the post-production place who said something.
That's hilarious.
And then season 2, when we got going, we cast, the actor for it, but it hadn't happened before then.
Yeah, no, I think it was. I was glad you brought back Morph because he was one of my favorite characters too. But I think it was clever to give him PTSD because then he didn't show up in every episode after he came back, right? He was always gone. He was still he was alive in the world, but you didn't see him in the show, so he still felt like he was gone.
Right.
So that was a clever win-win for everybody.
Right. We had Wolverine chasing him because he didn't want to give up on his friend, so he was on a quest to try and save Morph from what he was doing. And in the original series with Lin Wein and I think Cockrum, the original character that died was Thunderbird.
Right.
And so we were going to do Thunderbird instead of Morph. And then we said, wait a minute, we're going to create the first Native American superhero, an animation, not the first, but we're going to create that character, then kill him off. We said, that's not a good idea. So we went back. I went back to the archives, and I think somewhere like X-Men 47, 46, there was a character called Changeling.
Yep.
And so we said, look, he gets killed. They created him to die in one issue. So let's use this character as the character instead of Thunderbird. We'll use this character called Changeling. But DC had a character, the Teen Titans had a character called Changeling.
That's right.
And we told Marvel back east, or the lawyers, that you guys did it first, so you guys have dibs on this name. And they said, no, we don't want to get into any fights. Find another name. And so that's when we went from Changeling to Morph. That's what we called him. But I kept the same look as the original character Changeling from that issue. I think it was drawn by Neil Adams at the time. And so that's where Morph came from.
That's interesting. Yeah, because when you mentioned Changeling at DC, they also abandoned that name and then called that character Beast Boy.
Yep.
So now no one's using that name.
Yeah,
that's so interesting.
Yeah, so that's some of the backstory on that character.
Yeah, I love it. And speaking of backstories, like I was reading the new X-Men book that came out. It's really great. The art and making of, really incredible. And so we were talking about episode ideas that never made it onto the show. And so in that book, you had a list of ideas, and some of them were Savage Land Wolverine, which sounds amazing.
Yeah.
A major Gambit story with the Brood aliens in New Orleans. That sounds amazing. A Wolverine and Jubilee team up. That sounds great. Another Mojo story. And then it says introducing a new villain, the Game Master. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah, that's a character that was created. I think it was created by John Byrne.
Yeah, I think his name was Arcade, right?
Arcade, yeah, him. So I
Yeah.
think that we're gonna use that type of character for some episode.
Yeah.
But it didn't make the cut.
Yeah. Was there an episode or a storyline or a character that you really wanted to be on the show but just couldn't get on there?
Um,
I know there's a ton.
yeah, I'm just trying to think.
Is there one that sticks out?
I wanted to at some point. I wanted Colossus to join the team, but we couldn't figure out a way to make the interpersonal dynamics work because the way we had so many characters, male and female, that the writers felt like this was a group that they could write to, and if it gets too large, it's gonna not work, and so that's why Colossus was brought in and brought out. Nightcrawler was brought in, Iceman, brought him in and brought him out.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. In that aspect, it's what they call adapting. We adapted the books for television because it's a different media, but we only changed things because we had to. We didn't change it because we want to. It's like, no, we tried not to make arbitrary changes. We just had to make it work for television because we had 24 minutes to try and tell a story visually, and you can only showcase so many characters at once, and we needed the voices to be distinct, and also for the powers to be distinct. Colossus's powers is the same as Rogue, being super powerful, it's too super strong. We wanted characters that also the powers didn't overlap, and so even though I wanted Colossus into the show, his power is the same as Rogue. So that's why
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's why he was brought in, and he had to leave.
So I have a question about the show that's been bothering me for so long, and you may be able to help me. If not, then that's totally okay. So why did Cyclops never realize that his brother was Havoc and that he had met him? He knew he had a brother, but he was never explicitly told that Havoc was his brother.
Right. That was one of the things I told the story editors. I wish we would have had a story where they realized they were brothers, because right now it wasn't until he discovered that Corsair was his father that, all of his anxieties just came out in that episode. And you see him he's got the locket of the mother and his brother.
Yeah.
But to him, it's like he was an orphan, and to him, the brother died somewhere. He had no knowledge of his existence.
Right.
And it would have been nice to have a story where they discover each other.
Right. And there were so many instances where I was like, okay, this is when they tell him that Havoc's his brother. Like Professor X didn't tell him, and I'm sure he knew because he, was in everyone's head. So he should have been like, oh, that's your brother, but he didn't say that. And then also when, like you said, when he met his dad, it wasn't like, oh, he was a mutant too, and he could do this. Like there was no hint given to him at all. So I was just like, are they ever going to know? And they met. So yeah, that was like one of the things where it was like, you gotta.
Well, the first time the Cyclops and Corsair met, they didn't know they were related at all. They actually waited for another episode, so that would be the story.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the writers were waiting for maybe a story where that involved Cyclops and and his brother.
Yeah.
To have that be the story, because the one thing that they, like I said, the writers would do, they would write character stuff, and so tossing in the revelation that that's his brother wasn't the story. The story was Iceman.
Yeah.
And Lorna Dane, I think her name is.
Right.
That was the story. So throwing in the other stuff would throw
the
what the story was all about off kilter.
Yeah. It's like, that's why this show is so good and people want more of it, because there's so many like unanswered things like that.
Yes.
But
Yeah, I think the writers were, yeah, they were focusing more on the relationship between Morph and Wolverine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that between the two of them. But one thing I did as a director on that episode is that when I think it's Act 3, where basically the Sentinels captured the entire team.
Yeah.
And Morph is the last one. The way it was written, he didn't do any shape shifting. The original script had him doing just using a ray beam, bang, 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 bang. And I read that, I went, no, this is wrong. You got to showcase what he could do.
Yeah.
And so I had him, I'm the one who designed that entire combat sequence. So I had him, morph into like Sasquatch. So he had the physical strength.
Yeah, that's right.
Have him turn into let's see, Omega Red with the cables.
That was really, yeah.
I figured, okay, he can't adapt powers, but he can adapt the physicality of other characters that could help him get out of those situations. So I had him do all that, and he was doing really good. He was kicking butt and doing everything. I wanted to showcase how powerful he could be.
Yeah.
In battle.
Yeah, because up to that point, you've never actually seen him do that. It's weird for a character who can turn into anyone. You actually don't see him do that in battle very often. He's only like done that against Wolverine, and that doesn't count because but like, yeah, you're right. That was the first time you actually see Morph go like full Morph.
Yeah. And so I had some fun. I said, okay, who could, I was in my, as I was designing, okay, let's see, he could be Sasquatch, Mega Red, he could become the Angel with the wing.
Yep.
He could become characters that have had those type of abilities, and it worked because you see him changing and going, oh man. Now, the thing is that also, if you're an audience member that doesn't know the X-Men, you're seeing them shift into these different characters, but it doesn't mean anything to the general audience. But to the fans, they knew exactly, oh, he's doing this, oh, he's doing that.
Yeah. They know exactly what's going on.
Creating some excitement about the episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did a lot of that, adding stuff, trying to make stuff better.
Yeah. And it shows. That's what makes those moments so great. And it stays with me. It stayed with me for since I saw it. So yeah, thank you for doing those. I'm
an old fanboy.
Yeah. No, well, speaking of being a fanboy, do you want to describe the room you're in? Like, what, you have a lot of collectibles and such. Do you collect anything besides what do you collect anything?
I have too much, actually. Some of the stuff behind me is like, when I was working on different shows, they give us free toys. And so
yeah.
I take when I'm at work, we take the toys and just push pin them on the wall. Like on G.I. Joe, we had almost all the Joes and all the tanks and toys and jets. And so that when we were drawing it, if we wanted to draw the plane in a dramatic angle, we could actually take the toy and look at it.
That's smart.
And then draw it, once we could see it.
Yeah, for reference.
So around me, I got like the original Captain Planets, Dark Water, Bucky O'Hare, some Swamp Things, He-Man stuff, superpowers. Let's see what's over there. Black Star, Batman, Secret Wars, RoboCop. Yeah, it's yeah. I got my walls are full.
Yeah. That's I'm sure. What is your most prized X-Men memorabilia that you have from the show?
I got some cells. I got some cells of the one I got was Lady Deathstrike attacking Wolverine. It's a very long cell. I got one of those. I got, one second.
Yes, please.
Get this over here.
Yeah.
Let's see. I got a couple of cells from, I didn't get that many because they had tons of them, but like this one's from the first episode.
Oh, that's amazing.
With Jubilee, where she was on, I don't know if the glare is there, but you know,
Yeah, no,
there
I
it
can
is.
see it. Yeah, that's great.
This was pretty much like a standard storm, I think. Let's see.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And then this is one from when it looks like Phoenix is going to be stuck in the sun all day for the rest. And it's just before Cyclops cries. That's one of his.
Man. Oh, I'm so emotional just looking at that.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, that's a really great sad Cyclops.
Yeah.
I read in the book that there was an issue with Lady Deathstrike and how she was
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I loved reading this story where she, you know, it was her outfit was too revealing.
Yeah, basically her original costume was a plunging neckline to her belly. So you see all this cleavage. So my original models, I made her almost flat chested. So you didn't see much of anything in the middle.
Yeah.
It went overseas to a company called Patsy, which is Philippine Animation Studio. I don't know what the I stands for, but those people were, that entire studio were fanboys from Marvel. They were like, they love Marvel stuff. And so when they got the show and they saw Lady Deathstrike, they figured they would correct my drawings and give her cleavage. and mass. And so when she moved, everything moved with her.
Right. You're like everything was animated.
Yes, everything was animated. And then, you know, when the footage came back and broadcast standards and practices saw it, they weren't, what is this? What is this? This is a children's show. This is a children's show. And I you know, I had to show them, look, here's the model, you know, that you approved.
Yeah.
You know, she had, you know, it was flat chested, so it was no problem there. So I had to come up with a solution rather than have them reanimate. You know, I had them just put white, like a t-shirt. So I covered up the cleavage with a white part here, and that solved all of their concerns. You know, because it's Saturday morning for kids. But yeah, that was it's like, oh my God, it looks great, but it can't get on the air. You can't use it. No,
that's hilarious. I really enjoyed reading that story, and like the fix for that was just like, I mean, yeah, it was brilliant.
It was a quick fix, and I went through the entire show. I found out, I looked at the shots where she was in, and I think the fix might have been 20 scenes. And so by doing that, then everything was fine.
Yeah, that's so funny. I love hearing stories about, like, you know, things like that where, like, you know, we would never have known, you know, unless you were on the production side.
Yeah. A lot of the behind the scenes stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, as a storyboard artist, I'm sure you gave critiques to artists all the time.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, I look forward to conventions coming back open, and hopefully I get to meet you at one of them. Thank you so much for being here. It's been a blast and an honor to get to talk to you. Finally.
Mark, I hope to talk to you soon too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.